I'm Addie Schanie. Now to reporter Brenna Hagan, who is at the mayoral candidate Patty Minter's watch party. Brenna, what's the energy like downtown? And while we don't have a ton of information on the local elections yet, we are getting some states called early enough for the presidential election, so we'll just do a quick check-in on that. They have already called Kentucky, Indiana, West Virginia, as well as Vermont. These were all give-me's for their parties. This was what was expected to happen. That's how they are able to call those so early. Currently, Kentucky only has 26% of its votes in. But that was called when it was an even lower number than that. So this year, Kentucky voters bubbled in 2 constitutional amendments. The first one is Amendment 1. It would add a section in Kentucky's constitution saying non-citizens cannot vote. It is important to note people who are not citizens already cannot vote in Kentucky elections. The second is Amendment 2. If it passes, it would allow public tax dollars to be spent on private schools.
So why is Amendment 2 such a big focus in Kentucky right now?
It's a big focus because it would enact major changes in how tax dollars are used for education. So if it's passed, it would allow tax dollars to go towards different forms of schooling, whether that be charter schools or private schools. That is not currently allowed. So this does not enact any sort of actual program. What this does is it removes the barriers in our state constitution that stop that from happening, but it doesn't create a program in and of itself. Thank you so much, Sterling. We're excited to have more from you later. Coming up, the bases Trump and Harris both need to win to secure the presidency. Yeah, so not much has changed from the last time we talked to you. They've already called Kentucky, West Virginia, Indiana, and Vermont. That puts Trump and Harris at 23 and 3, respectively. Those are already the states that were secured for each candidate. So I want to spend some time talking about the results we have so far from Georgia. Georgia is one of those highly sought-after battleground states this year. One of the counties in particular in Georgia that we're paying very close attention to is Fayette County. That's right outside of Atlanta. Those surrounding counties outside of Atlanta are going to be crucial for the Democrats to secure Georgia. Currently, Fayette County is reporting 36% of its votes are in. 60% of those are going to Harris. This could spell good things for the Harris campaign. Yeah, there are many states where the polls have just closed within the last 30 minutes, so a lot will change over the next hour or so. This presidential race could not be closer. In final NBC News polling, both candidates are tied at 49%. With everything on the line, both campaigns push to capture every possible vote. Former President Donald Trump focused his campaign on energizing his passionate base. His team hasn't followed the traditional strategy of working to win over moderate voters, instead targeting a different group, infrequent voters, people who didn't cast ballots 4 years ago. Trump's team sees it as an opportunity to bring these unpredictable voters to the polls. Trump also working to regain support among women. This is a group he lost ground with, especially over reproductive rights. He joined an all-female town hall on Fox News in October to connect with those voters. Both campaigns also targeting the Latino vote. Over 500,000 Latinos live in Pennsylvania. Most of them have Puerto Rican ties. This is a crucial push for Trump, following a comedian at his New York rally calling the territory a floating island of garbage. Vice President Kamala Harris also stepping up efforts to win Latino voters. Democrats have historically held the edge with this group, but support has slipped to its lowest in the last 4 presidential cycles. Harris is also aiming for a slice of Trump's core base, white voters without college degrees, running ads on sports betting app DraftKings and during football games. Another key group in focus, black men. A recent NAACP poll shows 1 in 5 young black men support Donald Trump. Harris has been reaching out through events like a town hall with Charlemagne the God and appearances on the Club Shay Shay podcast. Harris is also pushing to convert Republican women, leaning into reproductive rights as a major theme. She's worked with Republican voices like Liz Cheney to persuade these women to head to the polls with that issue in mind. The former president made stops in 3 battleground states Monday. He kicked off the day in Raleigh, North Carolina, a state he's carried in the last 2 elections. Then he headed to Pennsylvania, pushing for the state's 19 electoral votes. In Reading, he said it would be interesting if Kamala Harris stepped into the boxing ring with boxing champ Mike Tyson. Later in Pittsburgh, he celebrated an endorsement from mega podcaster Joe Rogan and brought out talk show host Megyn Kelly. Trump wrapped up Monday with a rally in Grand Rapids, Michigan, the same spot he ended his 2016 campaign before winning that election. Trump will spend election night at his Palm Beach club, Mar-a-Lago. The vice president spent Monday crisscrossing Pennsylvania. She started by door knocking in Reading, then spoke about unity with canvassers in Scranton. In Allentown, she pledged her commitment to Puerto Rico. At a Pittsburgh rally, she emphasized her support for a women's right to choose and brought out pop star Katy Perry to perform. It was a star-studded final day of the campaign. She ended the night in Philadelphia alongside Oprah Winfrey and Lady Gaga. Harris will spend election night at Howard University. The historically black college in D.C. is Harris's alma mater. It's important to note what the issues are that drive people to the polls, because that can be indicative of which party is going to take certain states. So an NBC exit poll from people who actually voted, so these are people we already know casted ballots, they broke down what from each party drove them to vote. So for the Democrats, that was democracy and abortion, and as you said, for Republicans, that was the economy and immigration. I think it's important to note, with democracy and abortion being such big issues, that also underscores the gender gap between the candidates. Those are two issues that suburban women have continuously brought up as being specifically important to them. So I think that will be interesting how it plays out once we get more numbers from the polls.
Yes.
So this year, the most crucial is going to be Pennsylvania. It has 19 electoral votes. And the path to victory without securing that for either side is going to be incredibly difficult. That's why when we were talking earlier about where they were spending their final push on Monday night, they were both in Pennsylvania. So the Democrats won Pennsylvania by a little over 1% in 2020, but Trump is currently polling slightly ahead, well within the margin of error. Doesn't mean too much at this point. But like I said, without Pennsylvania, winning would be very complicated. Another important state to keep an eye on is Georgia. It has 16 electoral votes. You may remember how close that election was back in 2020, just 0.2%. It was long dominated by Republicans, but that Atlanta suburban area is really growing, which diversifies the electorate a lot. Join us this Friday for a full election show here on News Channel 12.